Greetings, travelers. I'm your host, the C. That Knows a Lot, Dr. Waluigi. Well, here we are again, travelers. Another Halloween and another year to talk about the spooks and specters of old. And this year, I will finally be taking a look at a movie I've mentioned several times before, but now I can give my full thoughts on it with this video. So, travelers, without further ado, let's finally take a look at my all-time favorite Wes Craven movie, The People Under the Stairs. The movie was made by Wes Craven, who was inspired by a real story of two burglars that broke into a house but disappeared when the authorities arrived, where it was discovered that two children were locked inside of their house and were never let outside by their parents. I'm fortunate to say that the film was a box office and critical success, making back $31 million against a $6 million budget, though many have said that the tone of the movie is a little off. But I personally feel like the tone works for the movie as, while it is a serious story, the comedy enhances the movie's premise. While there hasn't been any sequel to this movie, which I'm kind of thankful for, there have been two attempts to remake the movie. The first was planned with Wes Craven, but he sat on the idea of a remake after he wasn't pleased with the remake of his first film, The Last House on the Left. But he did try again in 2015 with a plan to remake the film as a TV series with the Sci-Fi Channel, but due to his death the same year, those plans were scrapped. The most recent news of a remake for this movie was back in 2020 when Jordan Peele and Win Rosenfield signed on to make a remake, though nothing has come of it since then. I personally would like to see a remake of this movie as, while it might not be as good as the original, I do think it would be a great opportunity to bring a story like this into the modern world and give it the more serious tone that some fans say it deserves. Though I do think that, depending on who would be chosen to direct and write the movie, it could lead to a lot of unnecessary modern humor or topics that have a bad habit of bringing down a movie like this. The plot follows a young boy named Poindexter, aka Fool, played by Brandon Adams, who lives in a run-down apartment building in the Los Angeles ghetto. He finds out that his family is about to be evicted and joins up with his sister's boyfriend, played by Ving Rhames, and partner, played by Jeremy Roberts, to break into the landlord's home to steal some gold coins that will pay for a new home and for an operation his mother needs. However, they soon discover that the landlords, played by Everett McGill and Wendy Robbie, are crazy, greedy, and racist people that have been stealing money from the ghetto as well as cradle-robbing children to try and make the perfect family. Can Fool survive the onslaught of the landlords, or will he be another member of the cannibalistic people under the stairs? The cast for this movie is excellent, with most of the standout characters being the kids. Don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the adult characters as well, the main villains are funny as hell, as well as threatening, but the kids are the most relatable characters and the ones we focus on the most. But I'll get to a few of the adults before focusing on the kids. Ving Rhames, for the short time we spend with him, is a brute that mostly wants to use Fool to get the coin collection for himself and his partner. But there is some truth to what he says in the movie about the landlords deserving to be robbed, as they're the ones who've made the people in the ghetto's lives miserable and hard. Which brings me to my favorite character in this movie, Fool. He was the smartest character, always using his head when having to deal with mother and father, whether it be by tricking them into killing their dog, or just by using the vents and in between the walls that were shown to him by two of the prisoners of the crazed brother and sister. Yeah, we'll get to that kettle of fish in a moment. I also like how Fool himself, despite being forced into a situation that he knows is wrong, is still a good person who wants to do the right thing. Sure, he's breaking into a house to steal money, but when he learns about what these two monsters have been doing to other kids, he decides to take action and tries to get the other kids out of the house and back into the real world where they can get help. And he uses a very obvious but clever way to get back into the house after he escapes the house the first time and takes on the crazed siblings. Calling the police. I will go more into the scenes with Fool and the other kids in the next section, but I just want to say that Fool has definitely become one of my favorite horror heroes that isn't a badass woman or a survivor. I think what works about this movie is the set design and the makeup. I love that while the villains are rich, the house they live in is a broken down mess that is mechanized to keep their dark and dirty secrets inside, which does include the children they've kidnapped. But they also hide the fact that they're brother and sister that were born into a family of greedy morticians. While it's not stated directly that these two are in an incestuous relationship, there are definitely some possible signs that that may be the case. One other thing about the house's design that I like is that it reminds me of the old house from Resident Evil 7, with how there are rooms within rooms of the house that was shown by one kid after he escaped from the prison in the basement named Roach, played by Sean Whalen, and he shows Fool where the coin collection is and asks him to save another kid who is trapped in the house named Alice, played by A.G. Langer, who is the only one that's been able to stay above the stairs because she follows the rules set by the cruel brother and sister. Apparently, the house was originally the home of Butterfly McQueen, an African-American actress who was famous for playing the maid in Gone with the Wind. The house has been referenced in a surprising number of attractions, with it being included as a maze in Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights, and the attraction based on the movie Twister with Twister Ride It Out. Just some fun facts I thought I'd throw in there for you guys. When it comes to the makeup in this movie, it's really top-notch, despite there not being that much gore in the movie, at least compared to other horror movies I've seen. Most of the makeup that we see is on the kids who've been forced to stay in the basement and have become cannibal-like creatures that were forcibly put down there because they lashed out against mother and father as they were all kidnapped from their real families. We see these kids look very zombie-like, with some of them wearing masks over their faces due to the scars they've received, and even most of them having no ability to talk since their tongues were cut out. It's really an interesting design for these characters, though I do feel with the way Alice describes what happened to them with the brother and sister taking away their ears, eyes, and tongues for being bad, it doesn't fit the characters in the movie, as most of them you can see that they all have ears or eyes. Though that really is more of a nitpick than anything else, and the movie's makeup and effects still hold up. If there is one negative I do have to give this movie, it is that the tone for the movie is all over the place. The movie can't seem to choose if it wants to be taken seriously or if it wants to be a horror comedy. I will say that I do enjoy the more comedic moments of the movie as they break up the tension and more serious moments from the movie, but there are some scenes in this movie that really should have toned down the goofy elements that were in it. I won't say that, for me at least, these moments ruin the movie, but if you're looking for a movie that is a little different on the home invasion type of horror film, this won't be the one for you, and you'd be better off watching something like Don't Breathe if that's more your speed. Despite the more silly aspects of this movie, I love it for the amazing cast and characters. Fool is one of the few heroic kid horror protagonists that I think deserves to be remembered as much as the older teen characters we've seen in horror films. The villains are hilarious and threatening when they need to be, and despite them not doing that much, the kids that these two hold in the basement are creepy but interesting when the final act comes. The effects are also some of the best Wes Craven has done for his movies, though I would like to see the remake make the house, writing, and the kids themselves a little more disturbing. Overall, I give People Under the Stairs an 8 out of 10. If you're looking for a serious home invasion horror movie with some goofy elements, I highly recommend this one. You'll be screaming and laughing your ass off the whole time. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Waluigi. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover, 'cause you'll never know what's inside. Good night, everyone.